Okay, so if you're watching this channel and you're looking for solutions, there's a good chance that you're finding yourself sort of stuck in the process of getting stronger. You see, a lot of rugby players find themselves pushing hard in the gym, and then they'll see that they don't really see that manifest in better performance on the pitch. Now, they might see this as a problem of transfer, like they're getting stronger, but actually doesn't translate. But I actually want to look at it from an even more fundamental view than that and sort of just question, are you sure that you're actually getting stronger? Because a lot of time, sure, you're definitely working hard, but maybe you're not actually making strength gains. You're not seeing the weight on the bar go up. You're plateauing pretty quick. You maybe do see the weight go up for a week or two, and you're definitely not feeling the effects on the pitch as a result. Meanwhile, the guys inside Rugby Muscle, they're frequently hitting PRs in the gym year round, and they're becoming more and more dominant in collisions. And that includes players in sort of every position. We've got fly halves that are becoming defensive leaders for their team. And we've got players in their late 30s and even in their 40s that are breaking lifetime PRs in the gym. I'm TJ, I'm a strength and conditioning coach with over 15 years of experience doing this with mostly amateur rugby players, and I'm also the guy behind Rugby Muscle, where we are dedicated to changing the way that amateur players around the world view their S&C. And today I'll be talking about how you can get stronger, but if you want to have all of this sort of just done for you and taken care of so you don't have to think about it, please feel free to check out the links in the description below to see how you can work with me. And if you enjoy this episode, make sure that you are subscribed, hit thumbs up, and comment any questions or thoughts that you have. So, first, we need to look at what the common approach from rugby players is when they hit the gym and why it isn't working. When rugby players look to build strength, they'll often sort of copy bodybuilding programs. They'll do body part splits with 4 sets of 12 reps, multiple different exercises for the same muscle group in one session, or they'll go the other way following powerlifting or Olympic lifting programs with a ton of volume again on the big lifts, followed by all sorts of accessory work. Now, in both scenarios, it's almost inevitable that you're going to burn out every 3 to 6 weeks. You've probably experienced this yourself. Maybe you've picked up an injury, or you found your consistency being completely wrecked because you're too exhausted or beaten up to train, or at least put in the effort required to see yourself progress and get stronger. And the only way that sort of doesn't happen is that you adjust the program so much that you're not actually challenging yourself anymore, or you start hopping through lots of different programs and doing something new every other week. And when that happens, the weight doesn't really go up consistently, and of course that means that you're not getting stronger. So why does this happen, and why doesn't it work for rugby players? I think it mostly comes down to recovery and mindset, because with these programs, the sole focus is the gym. They're not considering what you're doing outside of maybe walking a few steps or sitting at your desk and doing whatever. The sole focus is just in the gym, right? They don't need to worry about speed work, conditioning, rugby training, or matches. But for a rugby player, when you factor in all of that, your strength work might make up, like, maybe. Now, when you're doing body part splits, that might be fine as a bodybuilder or a powerlifter even, because they can hit legs once a week and spend the rest of the week limping around, doing upper body or posing or whatever. You can't do that, right? You've got lots of other things to get through your training week if you want to improve on the pitch. Now, multiple sets of 10 reps on back squats isn't just hard, it's probably not really a necessary stimulus that's going to transfer to the pitch. And then there's also another reason that bodybuilders only do their leg day once a week. It's because it is a massive mental grind to put yourself through that workout. It might take that entire week just to prepare yourself mentally to put yourself through that again. And of course, it does take a long time to recover physically from that as well. Now, with powerlifting or Olympic lifting programs, the weekly volume, because of the frequency of the lifts, may end up being pretty high as well, because for them, the lifts are the sport. They're not just trying to get stronger to express strength, they're also trying to master the skill of those lifts, because that is their entire sport. But when you come to the gym tired from rugby training or doing conditioning, or when you go to rugby training after smashing a big heavy deadlift session, all of a sudden everything becomes a massive grind again, and it becomes unsustainable. And then finally, when we're talking about accessories, for rugby, it's not about building a body that looks good for the stage or that supports what you need to perform a single lift on a platform. It's about building a strong, robust body that can handle collisions and chaos of a rugby season. Yes, you've got your big compound lifts and everything else, but also this stuff is really important. And when we're looking at your back musculature, it's not just about supporting your bench or deadlift. It's a fundamental part of winning collisions and dominating your opponent. So rugby players really need to take a different approach when it comes to their strength training. And luckily, there is a much better way to do this. And actually many different ways that you can do this, but in Rugby Muscle I use two main approaches to fix this problem. Number one is the Berserker approach. This is my take on Westside Barbell's max effort method. Each week you work up to one heavy top set, a hard set of 3, 5, or even maybe just a single rep on a main lift or a variation. And when I talk a main lift, I'm looking upper body or lower body, and maybe you can even do an upper body push and an upper body pull. You can then follow that one heavy lift with 1 or 2 lighter back off sets just to get extra stimulus as needed. You don't even necessarily need to do that, but you can do so. And then you're going to rotate through different variations of those main lifts fairly often, even on a weekly basis. So you can rotate from like back squats to front squats, or you can go to pause squats, you can go to heavy reverse lunges, you can go to split squats, or you can go to squatting off racks. With upper body, you've got lots of different pressing variations and different pull-up grips. There's loads of different ways to rotate through the main lifts so that you're progressing in a way without burning out. Now, there does become a certain nuance to programming the lifts to sort of alleviate how much weight you're going to push and how much of a recovery demand you're going to add to the body each and every single week. But overall, this method really does allow you to push heavy every single week. And if you get the lifts right, you rotate through properly and you recover smartly, you're not going to be fried and you're not going to be demotivated. You're not going to be burned to the ground because the total volume is really nice and low. However, you're still getting a quality stimulus every single week in order to get stronger. This approach is perfect for rugby players who do like a bit of variety. They like being challenged in the gym every week and they enjoy going in and really pushing themselves. But now we've got a structure where they're not going to overexert themselves and dig themselves into a deep recovery hole. And so they're still going to feel really sharp for their rugby, for their conditioning, for everything else that you've got going on throughout your week. The other approach I have is the Tactician approach. This is my sort of percentage-based progression method. In this variation, we're keeping the main lifts the same week on week on week on week, maybe for a 3 to 6 to maybe even 12-week block. But we're staying much further away from failure, and we're in that sweet spot between, 70-75% all the way up to 95% of your proposed max for that lift. And then each week you've got your percentages and reps to hit, and you're going to build slowly week by week by week. I've been experimenting with lots of different percentages and rep schemes, and there's lots that you can use, very similar to sort of a 5-3-1 type progression if you're familiar with that. But we're going to be doing 2 to 5 sets at that percentage rather than your AMRAP sets. And again, because you're further away from failure, you're just getting quality work without grinding yourself into dust. And then a real simple 3-week progression from this could be, 70 to 75% for 3 sets of 5 reps, 80 to 85% of 3 sets of 4 reps, and then 90 to 95 of doubles or triples. And you can sort of keep going from there. That's just a real simple example, but there's loads of different rep schemes that you can use, but just make sure that you're staying away from failure. You know exactly what you're supposed to lift, and that rep quality every single time is smooth as butter. This method is simple, it's structured, it's consistent. It's great for guys who like to know exactly what's coming every week, who want clear progressions and reliable results, and who don't really want to have to really push and mentally challenge themselves every single day in the gym. They just want to get in, know that they're getting their strength work taken care of, and then they're fresh for everything else that they've got within their training week. Now, let's look at why both of these work. Both approaches really do hit the same goal in slightly different ways. You're going to be lifting heavy enough, consistently enough to get stronger week after week, but without burning yourself out mentally or physically. And then you can start each session with sprints, jumps, or plyos. You can still superset your main lifts with power work if you want to, and you'll have enough time and energy left for your accessories, for rugby as well. And then when you do this, you're not just going to get stronger in the gym, you're going to see this manifest as getting much stronger, much more explosive, much more dominant out on the rugby pitch. Remember, what it takes to build strength is never going to be the same thing as what it takes to express strength. That's how Nick hit an all-time bench press PR in the middle of his first semi-professional season. He hit 180 kilos on his bench, which is unbelievably strong, but he nailed it. Using this strength progression, Kirsten managed to nail her very first set of weighted pull-ups in the same week as running 10Ks. And Ian PR'd his squat and deadlift the week after winning his cup final. So just because we're in season doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice our strength gains. And so the main point I want to stress here is that you have to find a process that you can trust, and trust that process and stick with it. If you continue to switch approaches every single week, or you try to do everything all at once, you're going to be biting the hand that feeds. You're going to be coming from an area almost of lack, where you're so scared that you're not getting stronger, that you're pushing yourself harder and harder and harder, that you're almost guaranteeing yourself that you're never going to get stronger. This getting stronger is a long process that keeps giving back and keeps allowing you to progress and see yourself become a much better rugby player on the pitch if you have the patience, if you just trust in the system. And of course, if you want to give these methods a go, you'll find the link in the description below to Team Rugby Muscle. You'll get a full year of programming using these two methods, covering in-season, off-season, or even an essentialist approach if you're really short on time and can only get maybe 2 or 3 sessions in for all of your S&C throughout any given week. And remember, with this, there's a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it completely risk-free. If you have a go on the program and you don't see amazing results, we will give you a refund, no questions asked. This video has already ran a bit long. I wanted to keep it really simple to give you the guidance on how to get strong, how to become a better rugby player and a more physical rugby player, and actually also get stronger in the gym, lift quality numbers. So I think I've done that. I'll talk about how to program your accessories and everything in another video. And if you've got any questions on this approach, on how to get stronger, or if you have anything else that you'd like me to take note of, let me know in the comments below. I always get back to them all. And if you haven't done so already, hit subscribe, thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.